I'm Spencer Hughes. Good evening to you, good night, and even good morning to you on the East Coast if you're catching our show live tonight on blogtalkradio.com, the Spencer Hughes Show Paranormal Edition. I feel out of practice. I left Blog Talk Radio for a little bit, plan to come back to it for these paranormal shows on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight on the East Coast. There may be a few call-in shows during the week once in a while as well. Most of my content is currently on Spreaker.com, where I do my daily commentaries and show segments for you over there. I'm very excited to be back with you tonight. Last week we were in Denver for a conference that my wife and our good friend attended, and I got to explore Denver, which I hadn't done before, and had a really, really good time. And I debated doing a paranormal show from the hotel room, but I said no. I needed a couple days off. I've been doing this radio stuff nonstop for a long time, and I just needed a break, and I'm glad that I took it. Feel totally recharged tonight, and I am very thrilled to have on here one of the stars of Sci-Fi's Haunted Collector, one of my favorite paranormal shows. It airs Wednesdays, 9 o'clock, 8 Central, and we want to welcome to the program Jesslyn Brown, who has a very, very busy schedule, so we're not going to keep her too long today, but I appreciate her fitting us in tonight. Jesslyn, thanks for being on with us. How are you?
Thank you, Spencer. I'm fantastic. You make it sound like I'm a much more popular person than I am. I'm actually I'm a pretty busy gal some of the time, but tonight I'm actually getting. I think it's an honor. I do a lot of charity runs, but tonight I'm doing one that's especially close to my heart. I'm doing a little cancer run with some friends, and this one's closer to my heart because my mom is a breast cancer survivor, and my dad is currently fighting prostate cancer. So this is pretty important to me.
Well, that's a wonderful thing you're doing, and I wish I could run. I would do stuff like that walking, but I don't do well. If you saw me even on a treadmill, you'd see why. But you actually are an avid runner and skier as well. That's a lot of and scuba diver. Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that it was your first time in Denver. That's I'm from Winter Park. I was born in St. Louis, raised in Winter Park, Colorado, and I skied on the Junior Olympic ski team up there. So how did you like our little town there?
Oh, I loved it. I'd been there before once years and years ago. My ex-wife, wife at the time, and my kids took an Amtrak train from Sacramento to Denver, and I loved the train. And we didn't spend a lot of time in Denver. It was kind of get there, spend the night somewhere, and then come back on the train to Sacramento the next day. But I loved it. I actually had all day long, both days, Saturday and Sunday last weekend, because my wife and our friend were at the conference, and I do photography as a hobby, and I took my camera out and just walked and got a lot of exercise, and I love Denver. I just love it. Some parts remind me of like Los Angeles, some parts remind me of San Francisco, New York even, but it's got its own flavor, all of its own. The only thing I wish I had done, Jesslyn, was I almost did a day trip out to like the Stanley Hotel and out to the Rockies and stuff, but I'm thinking that we need a little bit more time for that next time we go.
You know, you do. I'm glad that you said that because it's not a day trip. It's you'll go out there and you'll fall so in love with it. You'll be like, I can't leave. I need at least 24 hours in this place. It's a place I have only visited as a child, actually. And I have friends that have worked there full time, and of course, like everyone I know in the paranormal community has been there except me since I've entered the community.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'm like so bummed. Yeah,
it's very
it's something that I'm like waiting for. For some reason, I'm waiting for it to be the right time. Something will call me there, and when it does, I just know it's going to be a really epic experience for me.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of waiting, and I know I have a big event in my life that is going to bring me home to Colorado next summer. So I'm thinking maybe I might do it then. We'll see.
That's great. Yeah, I've always wanted to go, and especially on some of these ghost hunts, you know, you get a lot of people in the paranormal community doing events, and it just always seemed so remote. You know, I'm in the Sacramento area of California. I think, gosh, you know, it's not the easiest place to get to, but I kicked myself because I was in Denver. I mean, someone told me it was less than a 2-hour drive, and we had a rental car, but you're right. I wouldn't want to be rushed, and then I get out there, and then, you know, having to worry about catching a flight out and stuff like that. It just wouldn't be peaceful. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. But
yeah, it's about an hour and 40 minutes. But the funny thing about Denver and the mountains in general is nothing is only what it seems, because there's always construction during the summer because they can't do it in the winter. There's only like 3 months of the year where you can do construction on anything because the snow out there is so crazy. And because of the snow also, they're always having to repave the roads and redo construction. They have to they will blast dynamite and blow up rocks so that there's no avalanches and like landslides. So all of a sudden you'll think like, oh, it's just an hour and 40 minutes, and then you'll get stopped and they'll be like, oh, we're in construction today. The road is closed for 3 hours.
Oh no, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a good decision then.
Probably. If you don't know your way around there, you can get so screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love this show. I really do. And people keep saying, like, well, what's the new spin on these paranormal shows? And you have all these teams stumbling in the dark and the night vision and people getting scared and the flashlight test and all this stuff. But this idea, and John Zaffis, for people that don't know, is the lead investigator. And he goes back more than 30 years in the paranormal world. I mean, a lot of people look up to him. I looked up to him as a great mentor in the paranormal world. And when I heard about this show coming out, it's in its third season right now on Wednesdays on Sci-Fi, I got really excited about it because I loved Zaffis. I loved this team that he put together. And you joined it last season, right? You've been in seasons 2 and 3?
Yes, I have. And same thing. I was excited to hear about the show coming out. And then to get a call out of the blue for somebody to be like, so, have you ever heard of this show, Haunted Collector? And would you like to come talk to us about being on it? I was like, are you shitting me?
Yeah, well, it's got to be like being a kid in a candy store. I can only imagine. I've always tried. I've joked. I'm friends with Amy Bruni and Britt Griffith from Ghost Hunters, and I keep saying the only reason they haven't called me in to be a guest investigator, because I'm just drooling over the chance, is that Jason Hawes doesn't want another good-looking bald guy on the show. You know what I mean? I mean, we're kind of like brothers from another mother. No, I'm just kidding. I'm bald.
No, that's got to be it.
Shorter than him, but anyway. No. But
I've seen your pictures on your website, and I think that's most certainly the reason.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, the premise behind this show, for people that don't know, is a unique one, and that is tying in objects to a haunting. And all these other places are busy contacting the spirits, and you guys do that too. But I love this idea of spirits connecting to a particular object, whether it's a coin or whether it's a picture or that thing that was on the casket. I forget what it's called. These things.
A casket plate.
Yeah, the plate that would. Yeah, exactly. The plate that would be on a casket, and how a spirit might connect to that. What are your thoughts on that? And how hard is it when you guys go into a case? It's got to be like a needle in a haystack sometimes. How do you find that object? If you go into a haunted location and there's potentially, it's like one of those hidden object games, really. I mean, there's 10,000 things in the room. How do you guys narrow it down as well as you do that? Oh, yeah, it's the clock over there. You know, Grandma's still attached to the clock, and that's what's causing all these apparitions and stuff. I mean, it's got to be very complicated.
It is to a degree. Sometimes, it's exactly that. It's a needle in a haystack. One of the cases that you'll see coming up, we walked into this antique store, and literally there was you could barely move without feeling like you were going to break one thing, and it was going to be like dominoes. And everything, the whole place would shatter. And I was like, oh, my God, where do we start? I just stood in the doorway, and I was like, I don't even want to move, because I'm going to break something really expensive, and and I don't know where to start, and I don't know what to do. And I was like, I don't even want to do this case. Like, how the hell are we going to do this? And in 6 days. And the thing is, sometimes it's harder to seek out, and sometimes it jumps out at you. A lot of the times, like you'll find, we're going to get certain EVPs that lead us to a certain area or to even, I don't want to say like a genre, but like in a direction, and then you start thinking, oh, well, it's got to do with this person, or it's got, and then it takes us back to the history, and then we go find out, well, it's got to do with this family who lived there, and we start looking into that family, and then all of a sudden we start finding, that there's energy in a certain part of the room because our meters are going off, and everything's connected. And that's where I think a lot of people are missing, because I know that a lot of people watch are investigating themselves, or having experiences themselves. And what I keep seeing, what I keep hearing from teams when they are sending me evidence to say, hey, you know, like, what are you thinking about this? Is that it's the same basic questions. And it's even what I see a lot in other shows. And I know, I want to give credit to this, first of all. What everyone sees on the show is between 15 and 25% of what actually happened.
Wow. Well, yeah, like you said, 6 days. I mean, you guys are in these locations for a long time, and we see and edited down, you know, we see maybe 40, 45 minutes of it without the commercials, right? And everyone thinks that it's all kind of done quickly, but you guys are there for days and days on end.
Yeah, and 12 hours a day at that. So we're there for a really, really long time, and 12 hours a day, and we could all be shooting at the same time. So there's like, when you actually like break it down and see how many cameras are going at the same time and how many hours of footage there actually is, we broke it down, and there was something like over 300 hours of footage per location. And you only see 22 minutes of footage.
I wouldn't want that job.
So
that editing job's got to be complicated.
Really hard.
I mean, do you ever get upset?
Call me all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. A lot of the time, like, I'll even call up the editors and be like, "Where is this?" And they're like, "Oh, we cut that out weeks ago because it doesn't go with the story. And while it's great evidence, we have to get to the point." And I'm like, you know, I'm mad. And that's where, you know, people forget, go to sci-fi.com. There's bonus scenes. And that's what they've been putting in with the bonus scenes lately, are a lot of evidence that they've missed over. And especially because I went in the other day and I was like, you guys, they were like, yeah, we're having trouble with this episode. And I was like, well, you know, what about this and this and this and this? And they were like, none of that's in there. That all got cut in the first cut. And I'm like, well, go back and review it because I think it could really make the episode.
Yeah.
It's collective, you know, and it's really hard for them because they're not there. But again, like, just quickly going back to, you know, item attachment, people forget too. They're like, you know, a lot of people will say, wow, you know, only this guy could always find an item. First of all, we get called to cases that already have items in question. Right. You know, these are specific cases that we're going to. So keep that in mind. You know, It's a TV show. It's not fake in the fact that it's a TV show, but we pick them especially for that, you know, because that's what we specialize in. You know, people forget that sometimes.
Yeah, also, you don't want to be 5 days into it and say, you know, we just can't find this object. We better start a new episode or go to another location, right?
But also, it's not always like that. Yes, like maybe 2 out of 3 times we find an object, but also people kind of, I don't think, pay as much attention to the fact that we might say there's an attachment, but that is really what we specialize in, is attachments. Not necessarily to, you know, this lamppost, but maybe just to the house, maybe to the people in it, maybe to the property. And if you really listen to our questions, that's what it's about. It's about finding out what is happening in general and then narrowing it down from there. The fact that a lot of the time it happens to, you know, have to do with an item, that's just what we're finding in our findings and in all of our investigations. And we're finding more and more that this is really a common thing. But if you go back and watch all 3 seasons, there have been multiple times where it's the property. It's, you know, the actual building. It's the people in it and their connection to the haunting. And all of those are a factor. And it's something that people need to look into. But that's what really got my interest in the show and being a part of it and being a part of this team was, like you said, it's something different. We're not just walking in, stamping it, haunted or not haunted, and, you know, here's some evidence for you. These people already know their places are haunted or they wouldn't be calling us.
Right.
They don't need hard evidence. And what are you going to do with that hard evidence? You know? I'm going to post it online. Hey, guys, look, I'm not crazy because I had this TV show come in and tell me that my place is haunted. Yeah, that's not going to do you anything. If anything, they're really going to ship you out to the loony bin after that.
Oh, exactly. You know? And you know, the cliched thing, Jesslyn, that someone would do, like in a horror movie, is if they find, like, the haunted vase, they would, you know, the power of Christ compels you, and they would, like, smash it into a million bits, right? And then they turn around and it would reappear all put together and stuff. But John Zappis doesn't do that. You guys don't do that. He has his haunted museum. And I'm really intrigued by this. For people that don't know the show, the items, if the owner chooses to do so, goes into the Zappis Museum. and he's got all these. I mean, it's got to be hundreds and hundreds of pieces in there that he's collected, not just on the show, obviously, but over the years. How does that work? I mean, I know you guys explained it a little bit in the show, but for people that aren't familiar with it, how do you contain these spirits, or are they already removed when they're put into this museum? I mean, I'd hate to walk around there in the middle of the night with all these, haunted artifacts and stuff. I mean, how does that work? And why don't the spirits leave? Why don't they just leave the museum? There's got to be a reason they don't, obviously. Yeah, well, that's a great question. One of my favorite questions to clear up, because this is one of our biggest pet peeves as a team with the show, that they don't clear up. And John tries to get them to somehow clear this up every year, but it just doesn't get worked into the show. Because people are all like, what, are you going to sprinkle a little salt on it and wrap it in some glass? Like, that's going to contain it, Sure. No, that is not all that we do, though I can most certainly understand why people would think that, because that's all that we show. However, if you know a little bit more about John and what he does, or if you ever visit his website, there's also a really great Q&A that he does on sci-fi.com, just sci-fi.com/haunted collector. Click on About, and he has this great Q&A. It explains it a little bit more thoroughly than I can, because to be honest, I don't even know everything about his binding rituals. He doesn't let us in on those. I'm sure one day he will let me if I really ask, but I don't know that I want to know, because it's all a little freaky for me. But the whole kind of premise behind it is, yes, removing the item helps. However, there are binding rituals done, separation rituals first, and then binding to make sure that the spirit cannot return to the item. The sea salt, of course, helps to cleanse it, and then just the glass cases are, for the most part, display, of course, to keep them safe, sure. While they're being displayed. And also, the really cool thing that I think protects it the most is that museum was built specifically to house the haunted items. And it's part of the architectural design, and then things within the walls as well. And it was blessed before, and blessed and bound before he started actually placing anything inside of it. Now, I know there's something within the architectural design. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that it has to do with the way that it keeps things out, just like pretty much every octagonal house that I've come across, I've heard is haunted. And I've investigated a few myself. And it's kind of the opposite effect from what I understand. Again, I haven't gotten into it. There's only, I spend 6 months a year with this guy, and there's only so much you can learn. My brain is already overflowing. Sure, yeah. 2 years. More, I bet. Well, I know you've got to run. Literally, you've got to run. So we appreciate all the benefit runs that you do, by the way, and for great causes. And I know you've had a lot of family experiences with cancer and losses involving drunk drivers, too. And we appreciate everything you do to bring attention to these causes, because it's really important stuff. So I love that you're involved in the show, but you do a lot of important things that we don't get to see on the air. And I want people to know that you're actively involved in all this stuff. Thank you. That's really important to me. And if anybody wants to know more about it or anything that I do or help get involved in my causes, I'm always actively helping and helping my fans, too. People always come to me, and I do everything that I can to personally help people. So if you want to know anything about any of my causes or just, asking paranormal questions or anything, visit any of my sites. I personally try to answer every single person. My Twitter is Jesslyn JJ Brown, and my Facebook is Jesslyn Haunted Collector. And, right now I think you have to follow me on Facebook. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to figure that out because I have too many friends, but I'll figure that out. Okay, no, absolutely. Well, Jesslyn, thanks a lot. I'm going to let you go because I know you've got other things to do here, and we appreciate it. And I'd love to, I know we just barely scratched the surface here, but I'd love to have you on a future episode if you'd love to come back with us. We'd love to have you. I would love to come back. Thank you so much, Spencer. We will totally do this again. Okay, Jesslyn, thanks a lot. You take care, okay? Have fun at the run, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us as our guest. Jesslyn Brown of Haunted Collector. And again, you can look her up on Jesslyn Haunted Collector on Facebook. Her Twitter is Jesslyn, JESSLYNJJ, and then Brown. And very, very interesting stuff about her. I've been reading a lot of interviews, and I wanted to spend more time with her. The next time we have her on, we'll spend a little bit more time. But she has suffered some personal losses, including the loss of her best friend more than 6 years ago, and actually her brother 2.5 years ago, both of them involving car crashes, her brother dying in a tragic accident at the hands of a drunk driver. And she is very active in supporting causes such as MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and SAD as well. So really neat woman, and a terrific TV show. If you've never seen it, you've got to check it out. Haunted Collector on the Sci-Fi Channel, Wednesdays, 9 o'clock p.m., 8 o'clock Central.